This is always my first step when doing fretwork. I'm checking all of the frets for rock and correcting whatever I can by tapping them back in place with a hammer. This usually works to a degree, but especially in cases where you have an old or cheap neck, some rocking after reseating is pretty much inevitable. Either way, getting everything as level as I can before I even start taking away fret material helps to preserve as much of the fret as is possible. Once I had everything seated and checked again that the neck was straight, I started on the leveling process. Overall, this neck was in a pretty good place after hammering, so I didn't really have a lot of work ahead of me, but my goal was to get the action as low as I could, so even minor fret height discrepancies were a no-go for this project. After getting all of the frets level and adding in a little fall away, I needed to reintroduce the crowns back to the tops of these frets. Having everything level is great, but this guitar will not play to its full potential if all of the fret tops are flat. This 3-corner file is my tool of choice in crowning, but there are many other crowning files available to suit each person's preferences. I gradually remove material from the sides of the frets until I'm left with a thin line down the center of each one. Keeping that line ensures that everything remains level through this process. If I file too much, then I will end up removing height from the fret, undoing everything leading up to this step. I decided to give the fret ends a bit of attention as well. Tapping the frets down with a hammer does push them further into the slot, but it also pushes the ends out. This results in sharp fret ends that I do not want to encounter once I finally start to play this guitar. The edges of the fingerboard itself were also pretty harsh, so I used my flat file and some sanding sponges to roll those in a bit. This will give me a more comfortable grip while playing instead of feeling like I'm grabbing onto a corner. The last thing for this neck is getting the frets all polished up. I don't want my strings grinding on coarse metal when doing bends, and polishing the frets will keep that from happening. I work my way up in micro mesh grades until I end up with a nice mirror-like finish. I start with 1500 to get rid of all the marks from the sandpaper, and each grit after works away the markings from the last. I finish it up with 12,000 grit, and the difference in look and feel between the finished and unfinished frets is very hard to miss.